We should be good to go now.
Yep. Make sure you hit the record button for me.
Oh boy, we're in dangerous territory now.
Please give the host permission. You should see a button pop, so please ask the host to give permission to record. It should pop up, something like that. So I don't want to lose this. Or hit the record button on your side, bud.
That's what I'm looking for.
It's down to the same thing where you hit share screen before.
Yeah.
Never mind. I've got it going live on YouTube. We'll just edit it from YouTube.
All right.
But go ahead and maximize your screen. Put in presentation mode.
Sorry about that. I am not. There you go. You good?
There we go. Good.
All right. So, yeah, we lost about 6 minutes there. We'll make sure that we pick this up.
Plenty of time. Don't worry about the damn clock, Bill.
So, you guys, this is. I think Scotty and I were talking about when he started talking about me coming to Note Camp. I was like, there's a couple of great presentations. There's a couple of things that are coming up in the real estate world that are now going to be hotter than anything else out there right now. And so I know what one of them is I'd love to speak on because it fits with the note world so perfectly. And that's seller financing. And guys are like, hey, man, that's what I wanted you to talk on. And I'm like, great. So that's where this comes from, the coming profit tsunami with seller financing. So brought to you by Radical Real Estate, because if you're going to make it in this game, in this world, in this time, you got to learn how to be radical about everything that you do and your profession. And that's what this is. It's a profession. That is the number one thing that you've got to learn how to become a radical on. Now, I've been investing, Scott mentioned this, almost 30 years now. I started when I was 8 months old. So almost 30 years been investing, and I teach my boys, and I got to confess to you, none of my boys are in real estate. I got a 29-year-old, a 19, and a 15, and none of them have any interest currently in real estate. But I told my 19-year-old, he's going to Oklahoma in the fall. He'll be a sophomore. He went to UTA this freshman year. And I told him, I said, look at what you're spending and look at what your job is going to allow you to earn. And you're going to understand, I went to college, I'm not bashing that. So you understand the reality of looking down the road and seeing what's most profitable in something that you might enjoy. And you and I, as real estate people, whether you're solely in the note business, and the note business revolves so much around real estate, and I do notes all the time. And so that is such a real estate thing. You got to go where the money is. So real estate investing for a long time, a Wall Street Journal and Amazon bestselling author with Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? If you hadn't got a copy yet, your library for real estate investing is not complete. Did 7 years on the radio, nationally syndicated for more than half of that time with Real Estate Now with Bill Barnett. And I am a business and investing coach. I own DFW Properties, which is a traditional real estate brokerage house. I have agents that work with me. In fact, we just literally about 6-7 minutes before 5, we got funded on another close through dfwproperties.net. And so that's a traditional side of the business. Everything I do is wrapped up in real estate. I am truly a real estate radical. And I will tell you what kind of got into all of this stuff, because it has bearing for you. I'm one of the few people, and I may be the only person that you've ever met that's gotten divorced twice in the same month. So I got served divorce papers some years ago. And as you might imagine, that kind of turns your world upside down. And I had an investment banking firm, and my partners also decided, well, we don't want to be partners with her because she's going to get half of everything. So they bought me out, and I ended up, against my will, by the way. So I ended up getting divorced twice in the same month, once from my ex and once from my ex-partners. It was time to say goodbye and move on. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, because if you ever get into that point in your life that somebody pulls the rug out from under you, it is a wake-up call. And so you start looking at, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do to go forward? Well, I had grown up around real estate. My dad did a theory or a process called rolling up, which is you buy a house that you live in and you rehab it while you're living in it. And then you sell it, you take all that profit and you roll it up to the next house, get as big as house as you can with that money, nice neighborhood as you can with that money. And you do that again. We did it about 4 times while I was growing up through till I graduated from high school, my dad, my 2 older brothers and I. So I decided, you know what? I never intended to leave investment banking. I had been doing that for 10 years, enjoyed it. And once I got away from it, I started realizing, wow, I had been a slave to my business. 60 hours was nothing. 80 hours was a pretty normal week, but I didn't think anything about it because I was eaten up with it. And the longer I got away from it, which was only a few months that I was away from it, it really started hitting me that, wow, I was really married to that business. And that business ended up costing me my wife. It cost me my firstborn. And you know what? I was like, wow, that really stinks. That was all on me. Too wrapped up. And so I got this great idea that while I was trying to figure out where I was going to go from a real estate standpoint, that I would go pick up a house. Now, I bought a HUD house, and I love HUD, still do HUD to this day. I bought a HUD house and went in and said, you know what? It's go time. It's time to just get something going, get up off your rump, get out there and figure out what it is that you want to do when you grow up. And so I started putting together plans to rehab one particular house, that very first one, and all of us start there. Whether you're buying notes, whether you're wholesaling, whether you're doing multifamily, flips, doesn't matter. We all start with the very first one. And of course, in my mind, the very first one looked like the picture on the right, when in all actuality, it was the picture on the left. But I knew that in real estate, you go where the money is. See, coming from an investment banking background, one of the things that you learn is you find where the flow of money is and you step in front of the flow. If you want to get a hold of money and get going with money, you go where the money is. Well, the money's a few places. And the most prominent place that the money is in real estate. So I had been in my investment banking firm on one of the highest highs I'd ever been on. Then bam, the double divorce happens. I hit one of the lowest lows and I had these extremes. But as I was going through that, I discovered something. And that is there was emotional satisfaction and financial gratification and financial freedom as a real estate investor, unlike anything that I had ever known. I made great money in investment banking, but I didn't make the chunks as quickly as I did in real estate. So there are very few real estate investing techniques that are going to do more for you profitably than seller financing. So what we're going to talk about here, obviously I don't have time to teach everything I want to teach you about seller financing. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the strategies in seller financing. And then later on, we'll tell you how to get involved in the techniques with seller financing. So my business started exploding. I had done some seller finance things, and I called a good buddy of mine who is my personal mentor, one of them, and his name is Mark Victor Hansen. You know him as the co-author of all the chicken soup books. And I was telling Mark about a particular quarter, and it was a great quarter. And I was like, Mark, man, this happened. And by the way, that was almost 30 years ago. It would still be a great quarter today. It was a magnificent quarter. And he's like, you know what? I've got a meeting going on this weekend out at the Ritz-Carlton in Pasadena. I want you to come out and tell 700 plus people exactly what you just told me. And I was just dumbfounded. I was like, well, Mark, those people couldn't care less about my little real estate business here in Fort Worth, Texas. He goes, man, I think you're wrong. Why don't you come out? And I said, well, I'm not a speaker, so I wouldn't know how to do that. He said, just come up on stage. I will interview you. 15 minutes, that's max. I'll interview you and we'll do it. We'll have the same conversation that we just had, except I'll just prompt you with the questions. I'm like, okay, fine. So I fly out. I fly out on Saturday morning. Saturday's when he wanted me there. And I get there about an hour before I'm supposed to go on. I don't even go into the room. I'm kind of hanging around out in the lobby. And I'm going on right before lunch. And it's about 10 minutes before I go on. I'm like, well, I probably need to show up so he at least knows I'm here. And I open the doors and step into this meeting room. It's 700 plus people, all at round dinner tables, which means they're only using half of the table, the back half of the table. And I thought, oh my Lord, I don't know that I can get to the front of the room by the time he wants me there, much less what in the world am I going to say to these people? So I get up there and Mark introduced me and he said, you're going to learn about some real estate from this guy, this cowboy from Fort Worth, Texas. And I said, okay, here we are. And Mark starts interviewing me. And about 3 minutes into the interview, this really odd thing started to happen. And it looked to everybody in the audience a whole lot like this. You could hear me talking, but my knees just started going. And I just slowly was sinking down and I was about to just collapse. And Mark reaches around me. Mark's about 6'4", 6'5". He's a big boy and puts his arm around me and holds me up and has a handheld microphone and interviews me for the rest of the time. From that moment on, I don't have a clue what I said. I don't remember any of that. My brain literally blacked out, shut down. The next thing I remember, I am off stage, walking to the back of the room. There is this incredible standing ovation going on. And I'm like, what in the world has gotten into these people? Mark says, we're going to break for lunch. We do. I get mobbed by about 70 people. He sees what's going on, turns the mic back on, says, hey, y'all stay right there. I'm coming back. Because all these people were like, tell me how you did that. Can you show me how you did that? Can you train me how to do that? So Mark comes back and says, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pick 16 people. And for the next 6 months, Bill is going to teach you how to buy real estate. And I'm like, I am? And he said, we'll pick it out. It's going to be great. And Scotty, that's the reason that I'm here tonight, because Mark got that started. I talked to him a couple of days ago. So fast forward a few years, I'm at T. Harv Eker, which a lot of you guys know. I'm speaking at an event he does called Never Work a Day in Your Life Again. And it's time for me to go on stage. And Harv is introducing me. He has started my introduction. And then this guy, Kieran Sweeney, literally comes running up the middle aisle, waving his arms, going, Harv, stop, whoa. And so I guess Harv was thinking what I was thinking, the hotel must be on fire. And he's like, Kieran, what? And he goes, I want to introduce Bill. He goes, okay. And so Kieran comes on stage. Kieran was one of those 16 people. He goes through the story of, I just told you, but from the viewer's perspective out in the audience. And he said, you know, since that time, I've made over $6 million in real estate, thanks to this man, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Barnett. And you talk about an introduction. I was like, holy cow, can you travel with me? So what we're going to get you to is a point where the bottom line is, so that you can go out any day and be able to go out and put together a seller finance deal any day you want to. Any day you want to. And we're getting into a market condition where seller finance opportunities are going to be everywhere. You have to be able to recognize them and you have to be able to execute them. But once you learn how to do this, your investment faucet is going to get turned on and it's just going to flow until you decide to turn it off, because this is one of the easiest points of entry. You know, so many people talk about wholesale, and one of the reasons they love wholesale is they can get in doing wholesale deals with literally no money, and they don't make much money either. This is a piece where you can get in with next to no money and you can make serious money, and you can make passive money, and you can make chunks of money. So this is something that if you haven't thought about seller financing in our world before, I hope before tonight's over with, you will. Because you'll end up having more meaningful sleep every night, knowing that you've got what I think is the perfect real estate blueprint. Because when you're involved in seller financing, you can go print money. You'll wake up every morning refreshed because you can't wait to do what it is that you love. Now, this thing right here, that cup of coffee right there, I do that every morning. I don't draw flowers in my coffee, but I do that every morning as a business think session. And I'll challenge you, if you're a coffee drinker or you're drink whatever in the mornings, get you a pad, a pencil, pen, get someplace quiet. I do this really early, so I don't have to worry about anybody else being up, including my dogs. And I get that first cup of coffee and I sit down and I'm thinking, what is it that I can do today to grow my business? So you've always heard your whole life, it's better to work on your business than in your business. Well, it was years of hard work before anybody could ever explain to me what that actually meant. And what it means is I'm going through processes. I'm reviewing systems. I'm building new systems. I'm scaling my business by getting more contractors so I can do more deals at any one time, or more real estate agents so I got more leads coming in. I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm not out in the minutia. And that's what it means to work on your business and not in your business. And when you take a cup of coffee and every day you sit down and you think for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes with that cup of coffee and you're just going, what is it today that I can do to grow my business? You'll start working on your business and not in it. So let me tell you about my introduction into the world of seller finance. It all happened with this guy. This is my dad. My dad's been gone for a while, but my dad was an amazing man. For me, one of the smartest guys that I've ever been around, a great entrepreneur. And he introduced me to seller financing by accident, and he did it with a 1956 Bel Air, gray and white, 4-door, nothing special. The car that we had didn't look near as nice as that. Come home one day, I'm probably in the 7th grade, and my dad's got this car parked, and he had 3 or 4 cars that he sold around the house all the time. And so here's this Bel Air shows up, got a for sale sign on it. And 2 or 3 days later, somebody bought it, and I didn't think anything about it. Well, about 6, 7 weeks go by, and the Bel Air's back at the house. And I'm like, Dad, I thought you sold that car. He said, I did. I'm like, well, it's outside. He goes, yeah, they didn't make a payment, so I went and got it. And I went, what? You got to tell me this. And this is a real estate lesson here. He said, I bought it for $200. I sold it for $200 down and $10 a week for a year. I told him, if you miss a payment, their payments were on Saturday. If I don't have your money the following Friday, you're not going to miss 2 Saturdays. I'll come get the car. So he sold that car 4 times. So he made $200 4 times, or made $800 on a $200 investment. Is that a good rate of return? We're always looking at cash on cash return. That's a great thing about seller financing, great cash on cash. And then I don't have any idea how many of those $10 payments he got, but he made a boatload of return on that doing seller financing. And I was like, wow, I got to remember that. That might come in handy one day. And it absolutely has. So listen, the real estate gurus out there don't want you to have the complete systems. They're never going to give you the exact blueprint, every single thing you need, because they have a reason for that. And the reason's this: most of them don't want to teach you all the really good stuff because they don't want any more competition for themselves. First of all, you don't want to be messing with somebody that's not in the business. They're simply teaching the business. You don't want to be messing with them at all. And you want to be with somebody that, one, you resonate with. You and I both, all of us, resonate with Scott. That's why we get involved in this. That's why you hang around. I've known Scotty for a while and just love the guy, but it's somebody I resonate with. And that's what you've got to be able to do. And you're not going to resonate with everybody. If you resonate with me, we're going to talk about some things that'll be a lot of fun. If you don't, that's okay. Hope you get some great value out of it, because I want you to think about it. If a guru tells you everything about their system and how it works and how to leverage it, how to leverage the resources that they use, then you literally, legally, very ethically, very easily can go out and jump into their market. And so a lot of them don't want to do that. And so let's just face it, Most of them get rich. Robert Allen taught me this. It's what you'll hear it time and time again. It's a very true statement. Bob said, Bill, I made $10 million in real estate. It's an impressive number. I made $200 million teaching people about my $10 million in real estate. I get people all the time that come up to me that want to learn how to become a real estate speaker. I'm like, okay, well, I can help you do that. But the first thing you got to do is go make $1 million in real estate and do it in a short amount of time, a year or so, because $1 million is not real. And I'm talking about profit, not equity, or not value, but it can be equity, but equity and cash profit, and just not the value of the properties. So go out and make $1 million in real estate, then come back and talk to me. And Scotty, I know this will shock you, but I haven't had a single one of them come back to me yet. But those guys, those guru guys, make their money by holding back pieces of the puzzle so that you keep having to move a little bit further down the line, a little bit further, a little bit more expensive, a little bit more expensive. And depending on how long it takes for them to release their next great system, the strategies may not even be applicable anymore. So the truth is this: if you want a system, you want one that works today, right now, not something that's going to phase out a few months from now. If you've been around for a while, you know that we've gone through, if you were around in 07, 08, we went through a really tough, hard downturn in the real estate business. We've got a kind of a false propping up of the real estate world right now because of the moratorium that went on with rents and against foreclosure. And that was something that the Obama administration did back in 07, 08. And I was like, I wish they would leave the real estate market alone, because business doesn't need interference from government, because government's never been able to run a business of any kind whatsoever and do it profitably. So please don't mess up the real estate market. Well, they're back in the real estate market. Now they're getting out of the real estate market. Now it keeps moving, but they're getting out of the real estate market, and the market in certain parts of the country is going to turn. Now I'm in Texas, Scotty's in Texas, a lot of you are. The market here is going to stay hot for a while. It's going to stay hot for a while because of all of the Californians, New Yorkers, Jersey, Illinois, all the people that are moving in here. And, Scotty, Abbott's pledged that he's going to finish building the wall. I'm like, he needs to build it on the north end of the state so we can keep New Yorkers and Californians out of here. And I can handle the Mexicans a lot easier than I can handle the New Yorkers and Californians. Just a little political fun there. Don't anybody lose your mind over that. So, hey, you got to find the system that's working right now. As our market turns, and it's going to turn, the underpinnings of the market turning down started about 18 months ago. Now, you don't see that necessarily because you probably don't follow the same stats that I and some other guys follow, because we're looking at what are the telltale signs as to where the market is going. The great thing about our market is you can't turn it quickly. This is a battleship. It says the battleship takes about 7 miles to be able to make a turn, and you can't do it quickly. Well, that's the real estate market. So if you understand what to look for, the condition of the market and the pricing in the market is never going to surprise you. And so we look at a lot of things, and one of the things that we look at is delinquency. How many properties are currently delinquent? And look, 90% of those are not going to be foreclosed on. They are going to get caught up on. They're not going to be foreclosed, but that 10% is, and the number of delinquencies each month gives us a heads up as to what's happening financially with home buyers. And even though they get caught up, when they get behind again, it's harder for them to get caught up. So we're looking at something that, what's coming in next year? What's going to be hot the year after that? In 3 years, where was the market going to be? And what are we doing today to make sure that we're in the best position for those things? And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that you're doing, and you may not even know it, is you're on here. You're on with Note Camp, because this is the kind of thing, the paper side of the business is going to continue to get hotter and hotter. And no matter what's going on in the market, property has paper associated to it for the most part, and we can play in that environment. And you're going to see some great opportunities to purchase seller financing and to sell seller financing. And we're going to talk about both of those strategies as we go through, so that you're not ever in a position where you're held hostage by wholesalers, agents, banks, contractors, none of that, when you understand how to play the seller finance game. And when you understand it, that's really part of becoming a real estate radical. And you get to the point where you can be able to stay buying properties in hot markets like Texas and Florida. Yeah, you look at Idaho right now, Boise, Idaho. There's not a city in America from a real estate standpoint hotter than Boise. But if you understand these techniques, these strategies with seller finance, and again, that's on both the purchase side and the sell side, then what happens is there's always opportunity there. So here's what we're going to be learning. One, how to find the deals that most investors simply say don't exist. How to find the deals that your club members, when you're going to your real estate investment club, a lot of them are telling you those deals just aren't out there. They are when you understand how to go about finding them, how to use the funding techniques that I teach so that you always have enough money for down payment and equity. Now, what do you think that funding technique is? It's private money and it's creating notes. If you have the ability, this is a real basic but incredibly important math strategy for you for real estate investing, because the people that grasp this do very differently in their business than the people that just kind of go, and don't really pay much attention to it. If I literally had this conversation about 4:00 this afternoon with one of my consulting clients. She had called me and she said, I found this house. She sent it over to me. She says, I really want to buy it. And it was a flip. And I said, okay, everything looks fine with it, but how much money are you talking about that you're going to have to come out of pocket on? Are you doing a hard money loan? What are you doing? She goes, no, I'm going to pay for getting into the property. Now I'm gonna have to get a mortgage. And right now, the best thing I'm able to find is 20% down, which is pretty common, 20% down. Well, the property was listed at 350. So 20% is going to be 70 grand. And I said, so how much money do you think we can make on this property net? Get all those fees out, get your real estate commission for selling, get all those fees out. And she said, well, Bill, I think we can make $50,000, $60,000 on this property. I said, okay, here's what I want you to think about. If I've got $70,000 and I'm going to buy a property, wouldn't I be much better buying a long-term rental property in a cheap neighborhood? And there are parts of the country you can still do that. Dallas-Fort Worth, not one of them, but you can still do that in parts of the country. Scotty, I know Austin isn't either, but you can still do that in parts of the country where you might be paying $60,000 or $70,000 down, or not down, excuse me, $60,000 or $70,000 for the property, and you're paying $12,000 to $14,000 down. Call it 15 with closing costs, and you're turning around, and the income that you're making, the spread that you're making is 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus % cash on cash. Now, as a note buyer, as a note writer, a note creator, as a note seller, you understand cash on cash. Cash on cash is the most vital, in my opinion, real estate formula that you need to know mathematically. If I give somebody $100 and I get back $150 in a year, what's my cash on cash return? Well, it's 50%. Well, there's a lot of people out there that don't have a clue that you can make 50%. And I'm going to tell you 40% is our floor. If it's not 40% per year, we go on. Why? Because there's too many ways out there to be able to pull in 40, 50 plus % every single year, cash on cash. There's another thing that my dad taught me. My dad owned a chain of shoe stores when I was growing up as we got into high school. And we would go buy these businesses, these other shoe stores that were going out of business. And we'd walk in and he'd let them, he'd find out about them. He'd let them run their going out of business sale for 2 or 3 weeks. They would get down to where everything had been picked over and it was just junk. And my dad would go in and he'd say, well, we'll just buy the whole thing. I'll give you a dime a pair if he really liked them. Otherwise, he'd give him a nickel a pair. And I'm sitting there just going, why in the world are we doing this? Because I'm embarrassed to have this stuff in our stores. We had 3 different stores and all of them pretty decent size for shoe stores. And he'd say, pay attention, boy, it'll be okay. So we buy these things. And then my dad would buy, back when the newspaper used to be a thing, other than the USA Today, I remember the last time I saw a newspaper. But back when newspapers were the common thing and you did a lot of print advertising there, he'd buy what's called a double truck. He'd buy both pages of an advertisement. Bill's Shoe Barn, sidewalk sale, nothing over $1. So we would take all this junk shoes. The only organization to it was we had several tables that were men, several tables that were women, several tables that were children's. And you just had to get in there and dig out what you liked in size and all that. And it was outside the store in front. Well, those dollar sales, because nothing over $1 was nothing under $1 either. Those dollar sales were our biggest weekends because people would come by 8, 10, 12, 20 pairs of shoes for $1, and then they'd walk in our store and they would spend $200 or $300 on our regular priced and higher priced stuff. And it started clicking. And he said, oh, you're getting it now. And I said, well, I think so. And he goes, what you need to understand is if I buy it for a nickel and I sell it for $1, I don't care what it is I've bought or I'm selling, I've got a magnificent return. If I've bought it for a nickel and I've sold it for $1, then I've 20 times my money. And that's when I started understanding about, wow, cash on cash return. So, I don't like to pay a dime, but if I buy it for a dime and I sell it for $1, I've tenfold on my money. And that started to really sink in through the years. And that's the kind of thing that happens when we're involved in seller financing, when we're involved in the note business. We may not have 20-fold per year, but we're going to have 40, 50, 60, 70% cash on cash return on a yearly basis when you understand how to play this game. And so I'm going to show you how to put money together so you always have the ability to go in and buy, because you've got down payment money. If you're buying a property that's about to go on foreclosure, you can catch it up and then buy it seller financing and turn around and sell it seller financing and do seller finance sandwich, and how to sell your properties for the highest price possible. Because when you understand seller financing, you find out that appraisers appraise property higher when it's offered with seller financing, and they appraise it higher. They have an actual literal definition for why they do that. And it's a property that is open to more of the market. And because it's accessible and open to more of the market, then it makes it more valuable. And your typical premium to the market is 10%. Well, if you're in the market right now and you got a $300,000 house and you offer seller financing, that's 30 extra grand that you make. We get started off with our consulting clients. We usually start them off doing a flip or two. We are pushing them as quickly as possible to the more profitable strategies: rental property, cash on cash return. They understand it quickly when you do the first flip. They get cash on cash pretty easy after that. We start looking at where do we go to go do this in a manner that increases our cash on cash. And so we start looking at all the different strategies there. And then one of the other things we're going to talk about is how to move our properties quickly. Now, that sounds redundant and ridiculous if you live in Texas, because if you have a house that is in good condition and in good selling condition, selling it quickly is not the problem. So that's not the case all over the country, though. There's other parts of the country where it's much more of considered to be a normal market. Also, we're going to teach you how to be able to talk to prospective investors that you're creating notes for, and to be able to do it in a way that you don't get in trouble with the SEC. Now, how do I know that? Well, in the investment banking days, when I first started out, I was at Merrill Lynch, and one of the things they discovered quickly is that I had the ability to teach other brokers. And so I handled what was referred to as 144, restricted stock. When a guy owns a company that's a publicly traded company, he gets a bunch of stock as compensation. He can't just sell that anytime he wants to because it could wreck the market. So the SEC has this, they put a restriction on it, 144, and that's the 144 restriction, and it becomes restricted stock. And there's a specific formula as to when and how much they can sell. And most brokers don't want to mess with that. So I handled most of Tarrant County for all the Merrill offices. We just split the commission, but I learned how you can talk to prospective investors that are not clients of yours yet and be able to stay out of trouble, and ended up teaching other brokers those techniques. And then once I got outside of that world, it became much more valuable information for me and a skill set in the real estate investing world. So over the years, I've personally raised over $300 million. I wish I had done a better job keeping up with how much my students have through the years. Nothing for a student class to raise 10 million or more over the course of a weekend at our weekend events. So this is something I've got a lot of experience in, but it's the keys to the kingdom, in my opinion, when you're doing real estate. And it doesn't matter what side of the note you're on. It is something that comes crucially important. So I always just look at it. If you understand the money flow and you understand how to put money together, there's really only two things. I teach a thing called the M&O strategy, the M&O system, the M&O secret. The M&O secret is money and offers. Real estate is about putting as much money together as you possibly can and making as many offers as you can. Now, where we start looking at seller financing, that allows us to magnify and to exponentially grow that money that we've put together and use it exponentially to get into more and more properties if we understand that. So think about what a bank does. Think about what a mortgage company does. Think about what a credit card company does. They take in money at one rate and they turn around and they loan it out at another rate. That's just referred to as arbitrage. That's what you and I are doing in the real estate investment world when we're doing seller financing. If I'm buying a property with seller financing and I'm turning around and I'm selling it at a higher price and typically a higher monthly spread, I'm selling it with seller financing, then I've simply arbitraged this property. I've put the deal together on both ends. I've stepped out of the middle and I'm just earning some income every single month. And I've got a big check waiting for me on the end somewhere down the road when this homeowner either decides to sell it or they want to cash me out and refi their note. That's absolutely fine. And they're going to want to do that because my note's not going to be 3 or 4%. My note's not going to be 10, but it's going to be 9 plus. And so they're always thinking about, man, I'm just about ready to cash old Bill out. And you know what? Those are fun things to hear when you get a text or you get a call from somebody that you seller financed a property to, and they say, hey, you know what? We decided to get a mortgage elsewhere. And a lot of times they're apologetic about it. But that 9%, we had a chance to get some at 5.5%. And because they had mediocre credit, we had a chance to get some at 5.5%, and you get a $60,000 check on top of the great cash on cash return that you've been getting the whole time you've owned it. Oh, we managed to muddle through and not let it ruin our day too much. And now we've got money to go out and do more of seller financing. So I've got a client here that I want you to take a look at. Now, I've got Deal a Day on here. This is a flip program that these clients came in, but I want you to listen to what they say, because what they did with the property is they bought it as a flip. And then once they bought it, decided almost immediately, hey, you know what? I need to do seller financing on this. And I'm like, home run. Thank you, Lord. And that's what they did. I want you to see the numbers, hear what they have to say. This is a great seller finance property. Here with David and Ray Aquila, and they are members of Deal a Day. And so, guys, tell us about your Deal a Day experience and what do you think about it?
We loved it. We got our deal. We're following Bill's directions, and they're pretty easy to understand.
Okay, so you found a property while we were out. We found one, and you guys bought it. Congrats on that. Now, a lot of people flip. Tell us what you did with that property.
We were thinking about flipping the property. It needed about $25,000 to $30,000 worth of work. But since this was the first time we were dealing with contractors, I got a number of bids, and I looked at them and I saw that a lot of them were inflated. And we decided just simply to sell the house as it was in the current condition. So we marketed it, owner finance, and we had a number of folks come out and look at it. And we had a couple with 2 children who had been tenants for 15 years. They liked the house. They have the ability to do the rehab, and we ended up selling it to them on finance.
Great. So you had a couple of options. Not only could you flip the property, but you could have wholesaled the property.
Yep.
And you kind of did to an end user. You could have wholesaled it to another investor, but you had an end user come up, so they give you some down payment money.
They gave us a down payment, 10%,
Okay.
and we got a 9.15% interest rate on it.
Excellent.
And the thing that we were looking for with this is the cash flow, the monthly cash flow. We used our IRA money to purchase the property free and clear, so now every month their payments go into both of our IRAs.
And ballpark, what's their monthly payment?
Monthly payment is about $985 a month.
Okay. So when you sold them the property, did you sell it for the same price that you bought it for, or did you have some markup?
No, we had some markup. We bought it for $84,600. We sold it for $119,000 with 10% down.
All right. So I want everybody to know there are multiple profit streams here.
Yes.
You got some additional equity buildup that'll come out somewhere down the road. You got a down payment of 10%. So in this case, was it 10%? So about 12 grand. That 120. So about 12 grand.
Yep, about 12 grand.
Okay, so got down payment and then running $985 a month in return, which is just a hair under 10%. And anybody that's getting 10%, that's a great rate of return to get.
Terrific rate.
So when people are looking at an opportunity to be able to learn investing, is this something that you guys think would be viable for somebody else to look at?
Oh, definitely. It was very easy.
It's an excellent program, and the thing that we really liked about your deal a day program, the thing that really sold us on it, is the ability to go out in the field and look at houses. That you took Lorraine out and other students for 3 days, walk through a house, tell her this is exactly what you would do to this house. And it gave us a lot more confidence in walking out into a house to figure out, what we're going to do.
So this is a message from David Lorraine, and we'll probably be seeing you guys again on here. Thanks so much, and we'll look forward to the next deal.
Terrific.
All right. So in case you were wondering, that was about 3 months before the lockdown. So it wasn't forever ago. It was just a little while prior to the lockdown. And the thing that I was most excited about with them is they understood the fact that, this may be the best strategy for us, going with not having to mess with doing any other repair work and getting this property under contract. And when you start thinking about, I'm sure several of you were going, wait a minute, Bill was talking about 40%. Then he said, these guys made 10%. Well, you got to think about the entire picture here. So they had some property. They had a $12,000 down payment on an $85,000 cash. So they had a cash return there of about 15% cash on cash just on the purchase. Then they had a markup of up to 120. So from 84.6 to 120, they had about 35,000 minus the down payment, the 12 grand. So they had another $24,000 that was in equity for them. And then they've got monthly spread going on. So what you want to look at is what are all the different opportunities going on there. When you do that, you find out that, hey, wait a minute, their cash on cash return got significantly better when you take a look at the whole deal. So they got that instant equity, 33.5, and then from that you deduct the down payment, and then that left them. So they got 12 grand in cash, and then they're getting that $11,820, that $985 a month through the course of the year. Now they took all of this, they bought it completely out of their retirement account, paid for it in full. That was something that I suggested that I said, there's some ways to set this up so that you don't have to do that, but that's the way they want to do it. So I said, okay. So when you start looking at the appreciation, the additional equity buildup, the depreciation, depending on how their contract's written. First of all, they always have the opportunity, if for any reason those people quit paying, they have the ability to be able to go back because they're the note holder. They're the mortgage holder. They could take that property back if they wanted to. So a quick recap on their deal, they got the instant equity of 21.4. Now that 21.4 is the 33,000 minus the down payment. So they got cash of 12 grand. They had additional equity of 21.4. They got yearly cash flow at 11.8. And they had that ability because it came out of their retirement account. So now the first year between their down payment, the equity they created, and their cash coming back in is $45,000. Now you look at, oh, wait a minute, they went in at 86.4 and they got $45,000. Now they're up over that 40% mark. And that's the kind of thing you want to look at, because how would that impact your family if you understand the math? And so I've been involved in multiple mobile home parks, and I've had people that go, Bill, why would you want to do a mobile home park? And I'm like, because I'm not stupid. Hey, have you looked at the numbers? Well, who wants to own a mobile home park? I do. Because if you understand the cash flow, they're cash cows. I don't care about that. What I care about is the math. Real estate is a math game. And if you understand the math, it will keep you safe. Every deal that you do, you'll be protected, and you'll be protected by the very numbers that other investors get bit in the rump over. But think about $45,000 on an $80,000, $86,000 or so investment. How does that impact your family? What kind of changes happen to you and your family if you're just doing that once a year, just one time? That's an extra almost 50 grand off one deal. And a lot of people, that's kind of money they're making is 50 grand, not on real estate. That's kind of money they're making at their job. So if you've got a chance to come in and bump that, Ron LeGrand's a good friend of mine. And one day we were sharing the stage together, and he made a comment. I about cracked up. He said, yeah, one of you guys asked me how I could double my income this year. And I told him, I guarantee you, I know how to tell you how to do that. Go find a job making the same thing you're doing now. Do it twice as long, that'll double your income. Was he right? Well, sure. But that's not what you and I are looking for. We're looking for how to use our noggin and how to use the resources that we have. And look, this is the thing that's so exciting about the strategies of seller finance. You can be lacking in the resources, but not lacking in the resourcefulness. And if you're doing that, if you learn how to be resourceful in this business, you'll always have a great place to live. I'll run through another deal real quickly here. And we bought this to be a seller finance deal. This deal is kind of the opposite of what David and Lorraine did. So I found this house for Royce Ann and Cheryl. This was the condition that we was able to negotiate the deal in. An investor had bought it and missed the mark on, they way overpaid for it. And literally there's a slate floor they had started to put in, no grout in it. And the bank took it back from them. And we went in and got a really nice buy in it. And that's the living room. Well, there's the kitchen after we finished it. Looks a little different. There's the living room after we finished that. There's your some side by sides real quick there. So good stuff. Well, they were going to do seller financing on it, and because they wanted the cash flow. the monthly cash flow. But the opposite thing happened to them. A buyer came in that had the ability to pay cash. And of course, the agent for the buyer was really pressing them. And the agent did something very smart. I think you're going to make over $40,000 net in this thing based on the numbers that you've told me. Well, they called me and I'm like, yeah, they're right. You're going to make over 40 on it. Turned out to be 41,318.28. That's the check they walked away with after paying all of their commissions, their taxes, their insurance, all of their fees, all of the holding cost, everything. They walked away with 41 grand. They were pretty happy about that. How does that impact you? See, I want you to think, a lot of investors get lost and they get bogged down in the fact that what they're doing is they think I've got to do 40 deals this year for this thing to work. No, you need to do one deal that makes 50% or more of what your salary is. And if you do that, it's going to impact your household. It's going to impact your future. Then after we get one done, it's like, all right, let's look at the time frame it took to do this. Now let's see if we can do two in about 50% more time frame. And then can we do two in the same time frame? And then on and on and on. And depending on our strategy, it allows us to do more and more deals. When you're doing seller financing, both on the buy and on the sell, then it's a pretty fast moving business. And the numbers, both in profit and the number of deals, can add up fairly quickly. But again, I was with one of my mentors several years ago in Atlanta. We were at the Peachtree Plaza. We were having dinner. We're up on they have the kind of like the Hyatt in downtown Dallas. They've got the revolving round restaurant up top, and we were having dinner up there. And I walked over to the windows with him. I was just standing there looking out, and we were just yakking and just taking in the sights. And it was night. It's just a sea of lights. And he said, I want to tell you something. If you get 12 of those this year to say yes to you, it changes your life forever, not just this year, forever. And that really sunk into me. It was very early in my investing career. And it brought into perspective, how many deals do I really need to do to have a great career and a great life? I don't have to do 3 or 4 a month. Great if you can. At one point, I was rehabbing 12 houses at one time, and I went, time out. This sucks. Not what I signed up for. I built a job for myself, not what I'm interested in, and thin that out over the next few months and never been back. I got 4 going on right now. That's plenty. But I'm also doing rental property because of the cash on cash return. So you look at some strategies like, can I occasionally do a flip, 1, 2 a year, 3 a year, to take the profits from that flip and turn around and invest them into multiple properties, whether I'm doing, if I'm buying them with seller financing, I'm likely going to need something. If it's a pre-foreclosure, I'm going to need to catch the note up. Then I can take over the payments. And subject to is simply a form of seller financing. Then I can take over the payments. So I'm going to have some money out of pocket there. Maybe they've got some equity that they don't want to walk away from all of it. They're not going to get all of it either, but I'm going to give them some of that. I need some cash for that. So I've got some ways in the much, much more traditional vein to create cash to then be able to go focus on notes, seller finance purchase, seller finance sale, and look at what my spread is. And if you focus in on cash spread, this movement, this business will become a movement for you, like it is for me and like it is for Scott. And everything we do is wrapped up in real estate. Somehow, some way or another, it's all real estate. So this Bob Rich is one of my clients down in Florida. He wrote me a very nice little letter. He said, hey, May 31st, we picked up a $23,000 check on an assignment fee. Here's a picture of our first real estate flip, put it under contract for $255, sold it for $280 with an investment of less than $1,000. Now, here's what I want you to think about. That's not in the truest sense a seller finance deal, but I want you to think about this. What makes seller financing so incredibly attractive is the cash on cash return. Look at the cash on cash return here. Less than $1,000 invested. Let's just call it 1,000 because it makes the math easy. $1,000 in, $23,000 out. So 23 times on the money. Now, the time frame there was about 8.5 weeks. Now you take that and you extrapolate that return out, and the numbers just get silly. This is a guy that was paying attention to the spread. We had conversations after this about what happens with the 23. He said, I want to do it again. I said, make sure that you understand why you're wanting to do it again. Not just, oh, I want to make another 23. I want to have another return on my cash that is 10, 20, 30 times, and it's that in a relatively short period of time. And so that's what, when we're buying and selling, seller financing does for us. Again, the important question, what do you think that would do for your family? What kind of impact would that have? I love Tony Robbins. He's a big time mentor of mine. Going to go see him again in December of this year down in Miami. And one of my favorite quotes of Tony's is, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they grossly underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And the people that are overestimating what they can do in 1 year typically get frustrated. And a lot of times they'll turn away from something like real estate investing that's incredibly profitable because they didn't move as fast as they thought they should be moving. And if you'll temper that and say, I want to learn how to do this business the right way. Now, you're in a good spot already. Getting associated with Scott's a great place to be. If you want to learn seller financing, I can promise you getting associated with me is a great place to be. And so you learn how to do it the right way. And then you're pushing yourself. Yes, I want to do it better and faster, but you don't get so frustrated you leave the business. This is the other thing that most people have to overcome. And in the seller finance world, this is a big deal. The fear that prevents you from taking action. Now, here's one of those scenarios. If I'm going in and I'm asking for seller financing, and one of the things that we're going to talk about some additional training here in a minute, and I'm going to teach you a secret weapon, a seller finance secret weapon that is amazing how effective it is. I've never heard anybody else teach it. And it takes a little gumption to do it. And this is what freaks a lot of people out. A lot of people are too uncomfortable to be able to go up to somebody and say, you take what you owe for your property. I can buy it, but the only way I'm going to be able to buy it is to take your payments over. And then you don't have the teaching, the learning, the knowledge, specialized knowledge to be able to overcome the objective when that seller says, well, I would, but if I did that, I wouldn't be able to buy another house, so I'm not going to do that. That's the easiest objection to overcome once you understand it and once you know how to overcome it. So a lot of people become fearful of, well, gee, if I take over this property seller financing and I'm servicing the debt that's on this property already, I bought it subject to, what if I can't make the payment? Well, we're going to show you how not to put yourself in that position where you should ever have to worry about that because you got plenty of cash flow. And look, if you're pulling in 40, 50, 70% cash on cash, you're not putting yourself in a position where you ever have to worry about being able to make these payments on the other end. Right now is the time to build your business. That's what so many people are like, oh man, I missed the boat on real estate. I'm like, no, you didn't. Because there's 2 times in the history of mankind that are simply the greatest times to get started in real estate. About 20 years ago and right now. Missed that. 20 years ago, Sky and I were lucky enough to be in that. But if that wasn't you, doesn't matter. Because today is the second best time in history to be able to get involved in buying real estate and buying it through the note world and being confident that you understand what you're doing so that you're not worried about getting in financial trouble. I don't remotely ever think about legal trouble because we know how to structure those things and we show you how to do that, but not getting in financial trouble because you overextended yourself. This is something that you can do. We have getting the guidance from the right coach, then you're going to be able to move forward. So I want to talk to you a little bit here, as we get into the wrapping this thing up here. What I call the Tsunami Sessions, the Seller Finance Secrets, the Tsunami Sessions. Say that one 3 times fast. So introducing you to the Tsunami Sessions and reminding you that one of the things that I've had the great fortune of accomplishing in my life is putting together more than $300 million of private money. And this is typically $25, $50, $100,000 at a time. And I can teach you how to do that as well, because once you understand that you have an unlimited flow of money to be able to pay payments, pay equity for somebody to enter into a deal with you, catch a pre-foreclosure up, then it changes the way you look at property, and it changes the motivation and the speed and the aggression that you have going out there and looking. And all of this is not based on your credit. Now, a lot of people still get hung up in that, and that's not what this is about. So I want to tell you about the Tsunami Sessions. It's a training program that we put together specifically for Scott. This is not something that I have ever put together before. And I said, you know what, Scotty, I'm going to put together an over delivery for your folks at Note Camp here that's going to blow them away. So the first thing I want to tell you about is I did a 26-hour video training session called the Real Estate Summit. And that's a package that we sell at $14.95, but it is literally 26 hours of 90-minute sessions, bam, 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 A to Z in real estate. We do that at $14.95. And then I have a home study course that's based on my Wall Street Journal and Amazon bestselling book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich? I built a home study course around that. I created a 3-day training, very separate from the video training, the 26 hours, completely separate from that. I built this 3-day training around the book, and I created the Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich home study course with that. And it is 16 CDs. It's a full 3-day event. It has the PowerPoints with it. It has a manual with it. That's another 378 pages of typeset. It is a really intense 3 days. That is a $14.95 value. Now, here's the thing that I think is crucial for anybody that's looking at seller financing. Having this information in these 2 training systems, the video summit, the real estate summit, the Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich home study course is crucial. But I always find that when people are going through that and they're learning and they're absorbing, they have questions. And so I put together, for every person that moves forward with us tonight, you're going to get 4 private, that means just me and you, 4 private consulting calls. And these are typically 30 to 45 minutes. And that's going to be included. I get people that will buzz me once, twice a week and say, hey, I want to buy some of those consulting calls. I don't sell them. They're only for people that I do consulting with. Now, when we came here and decided to put this package together for Scotty, I was like, you know what? I got to have some one-on-one time with these folks so that they know they've got the answers. When they get stuck on something, they can write that question down and come back to it. So you got 4 of those. Those are $300 a piece, $1,200 total value there. And then my course on raising private money. I call it the Private Money Vault and how to open it. And the Private Money Vault is a 6-hour training all about nothing but money. I teach the solid gold money script, the psychology behind it, why that psychology works so effectively, the paperwork, the forms. I give you a couple of different PowerPoint presentations with it. And I also actually give you a recording of me making that presentation on your behalf. And I call that single CD, Stop Gambling with Your Investment Dollars. That's a $247 value. You start looking, I'm sure you've been paying attention on the side over there. We're up to $4,400 already. And then proprietary system that I made about 3 years ago called Properties in Your PJs. What Properties in Your PJs is the ability to dissect a market anywhere in the country without having to go to that market, just being able to get online. If I can get online, I can access the real estate for that market, and I can build a definitive filter that lets me know all the way down to the individual subdivision where I need to be able to get the best buys and the best values and the best cash on cash return for that market. And that's what Properties in Your PJs is. So all of that totals out at a value of $4,534. So who's this working for and who does it apply for? It applies for investors who haven't bought because they feel like they don't have enough experience to pull the trigger. You'd be amazed. And if you go to investment clubs, and Scott and I go to these on a regular basis and speak, one of the first questions I always ask is, hey, if you've done a deal in the last 30 days, raise your hands. And in a big club where they may have 75 or 100 people there, there'll be 2 or 3. Okay. Now, if you've done a deal in the last 90 days, raise your hands. So another 2 or 3, 4 go up. If you've done a deal in the last 6 months, now maybe 5 or 6 go up. Everybody's kept their hands up, and you start to look around and you go, wow, it's about 10 to 15% of the room are active. And I go in smaller clubs and it's just 1 or 2 people. And so the reason that they're not more active is they're afraid to pull the trigger. They don't have the confidence that they've learned what they need to know to move forward. These systems were built on my scars. And I've got a lot of them from 30 plus or right at 30 years in this business. And there's no point in you getting those scars either. Learn from the mistakes of others and build on top of that. It also applies to investors who in the past have only dabbled and now they're getting ready to take this seriously, treat it as the profession that it is, because it'll pay you unlike anything you've ever seen. It is a fabulous business to be involved in. And investors who haven't had that skill set to really move their business to the next level and ramp it up, that's what these training packages were built for. And you know what? If you've spent anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 and you still haven't done a single deal yet, this is specifically right down your alley. And I can get if you're a guy, I can get your wife not looking like that, but what you do, not what I do, what you do, so that you can start delivering to her and to your kids the kind of promises when you told her how great life was going to be with you. You can start delivering on those. So you might be thinking that you can't get started in the business because you're unsure where the market's going. This is the time. You don't have to understand it completely. You have to have faith and confidence in the people that you listen to and resonate with. And if they understand where the market's going, like I do, then you're going to be in good hands. So there's that mistake that all of us are afraid that we're going to make. And for so many people, it's a ball and chain for them, and it keeps them from moving forward. Now, throughout history, it's times like this. It is times of upheaval that the most money is made in. In the Depression was the single greatest percentage of millionaires ever made in American history during the Depression. When things are chaotic, money is moving around like crazy. And if you don't lose your mind and you keep your eye on the prize, you start seeing the opportunities that abound. And there's more opportunities right now, as crazy as things are, than there have been since 2008, 9, 10. Never forget, housing is not an option. We all have to live somewhere. It is a necessity. Buying it and selling it is going to involve paper. And if we understand the paper game, you can be right in the middle of this thing and the math makes sense. And you can, I talk to people all the time that are not in my business. And I have buddies that do other things that do well at what they do. and they start talking about their portfolio, and they'll say, "What are you making?" And I'm like, "You don't want to know." "Oh, no. What are you making?" And I'm like, I don't want to go down that street with you because I'm either going to embarrass you or piss you off. And I don't have the intention of doing either one of those. "Well, what? You're making more than 20%?" And I'm like, again, not to be offensive, I wouldn't get out of bed for 20%. "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, real estate knocks that out of the park day in, day out from a cash on cash standpoint. So think how it's going to feel for you when we take you by the hand and together walk you through these deals so you're not making mistakes. You're going to look like this guy. You're going to be jumping up and down, hollering, "Yeehaw." So in the past, I have sold a training similar to this one for $10,000. But since we've had digital delivery really explode through the course of when COVID came around, one of the few good things that came out of all of that mess was this digital boom that we've had. We can now include some private one-on-one time and some private group time where it's a small group that before I wouldn't have been able to include into a package, so that it pushes you to the success that you deserve and that you're striving for. So I decided to throw in an action bonus for those of you that decide this is something I want to learn how to do. I want to learn this seller finance game inside out. I want to be making 40, 50, 60% plus cash on cash return on a yearly basis. Seller financing allows me to be able to do that. So we're going to have a action bonus, another training, a web training next Thursday night, 1 week from tonight. It's going to be at 4:00 in the afternoon, Texas time, God's time. It's going to be a private web class, and it's going to be all the additional ways to find and purchase seller finance property. Now, what we talked about tonight is umbrella. What we talked about tonight is strategy. What we're going to be talking about in this class is technique. So I'll start the class with, here's a strategy. Now, here's how we implement that strategy from a technique standpoint. This step, then you do this, then you have this paperwork, then you file this, and then we sell this way. That is technique and not strategy. This is strategy, that's technique. So when I do those private web classes like that, I do those at $495. They're typically 90 minutes to a couple of hours. Now, added on to our value already, we're up to $5,029. And now I was looking at that and I'm like, man, that's training done the right way. Give you the strategy and then give you the techniques underneath, learning firsthand, real property, real deals. Because one of the things that we do after all of those trainings is I hang around, and if you've got questions about a deal, we go through those, and kind of like the comedian Ron White is, I'll shut up if you stop listening. That's about when it happens. So the next thing we decided to do was I wanted to add a second action bonus there for you, which the week after that, which is Thursday, August the 5th, 4:00 in the afternoon, Thursday afternoon, I'm going to do an additional web class that is all the additional ways to be able to sell your seller finance properties and what you charge for them and how do you figure that out and what the market will bear and understanding those rules. So a class next Thursday, a class the Thursday after that, on top of the incredible training materials that have been built into the system already. So that's action bonus number 2. That's a $495 web class. That brings our total value on the Tsunami Sessions training up to $5524, and that's a big package. So you got those 2 additional bonuses in there. So you'll be able to see with those why I do the things that I do with a property, the way that I do them, the order that I do them in. You'll also be able to save yourself tens of thousands of dollars. You want to make sure that, as Tony Robbins says, you are turning decades into days. How do you do that? You do that by taking the experience and knowledge of someone who is in a different spot, but a place that you would like to be, and you learn from them. So you shortcut having to go through all that school of hard knocks. That's a tough one. You got to be really young and hard-headed to make that work for you. I've been both at one time. I'm not either one of those now. So you want to make sure that you're learning from others and what they've done, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And let's recap real quick. You're getting 3 days of training with me. That 3 days is audio. That's a recorded boot camp. That's the Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich boot camp, along with the PowerPoints and along with the manuals. And you get the transcript of that as well. For those of you that are like to read, this is what the home study course looks like. It is, so I've been very proud of it. A lot of people done a ton of real estate deals straight out of the home study course. I spent years doing this business the hard way, stumbling, hard knocks, before I started understanding the relationship between money and speed. The relationship between money and speed is simple. If I can buy a shortcut, a faster way, I can come out financially ahead by spending that money to shortcut my time frame. I have another friend that I mentor with that I love to death. And what he says is this. He said, look, every time you want to increase your wealth, your bank account goes down for your wealth to go up. And I said, I think about that for a second. He goes, well, think about it. If you're buying a stock that's going to pay you a dividend and you're looking at buying that income, you got to buy that stock first. So your bank account goes down and your income goes up. He said, Bill, you're in real estate. It's the easiest example in the world. Every time you buy a property, no matter what you're doing, you're likely to have some cash involved. I'm like, yep. Even when I've got a deal that I may be able to be close to zero out of pocket, it's usually something out of pocket. So my bank account goes down, my income goes up, and then over time, they're both going up. So the Dumb Enough home study system is in there at $14.95. And then the private money vault and how to open it. This is the private money vault, the 6-hour private money training. It's got ebook components to it. It's got 3 different presentations in it. It's got an audio presentation, me presenting private money on your behalf. And then it's got 2 PowerPoint presentations, depending on where you can tailor those for the things that you like. And the private money vault, again, if you understand money and offers, this business is unlimited for you. This is the key to the money side of it. You're going to learn everything that I learned from a decade in the investment banking world and starting out at Merrill Lynch and moving on to my own firm. And then everything that I've learned about putting money together in real estate deals as well. So that's 40 years of putting deals together. The first significant deal that I put together was in the 70s. And so late 70s, I was in my early mid 20s, probably mid 20s by then. Long time putting money deals together. So you're going to learn how to raise all that down payment money that you need, all that equity money that you need, all that monthly expense money if I'm servicing debt that I need. And one of the things that you'll see, I've got a video on YouTube that will be popping up here the next few days. And it's going to be fun because the title of it is How to Borrow Your Way Out of Debt. So you're going to learn all the questions that you need to ask lenders to build personal credibility, gain their confidence so that you'll know exactly what to say. And like I said, I've created those presentations already so that you can step in, and if you like doing paper presentations, you can print these PowerPoints out, put them in a binder and use them. If you like doing an iPad or a laptop or on your phone, you can do them straight out of that. So there's a lot of different ways to take the private money vault and how to open it and exponentially grow your real estate business. That's 247 value there. And then we talked about the 4 consulting calls, because it's crucial for you not to get hung up and miss something and skip over it because you don't understand it. So you get 4 of those. They're 30 to 45 minutes each. Those are one-on-one calls, one-on-one. And then you get the 2 bonus web classes. Those are group calls. And so we hang around after those 90 to 120 minute sessions are done. And we hang around and answer questions that you've got, no matter what they're about, as long as they're about real estate. So it is those consulting calls are $1,200 or $300 a piece. There's 4 of those. Then properties in your PJs, little sock feet there in front of the fireplace, because that's how you can do this. If you understand, I've got a system in place to be able to go look at property in Omaha right now. I've never been to Omaha, unless I go to the College World Series. I don't have any interest in ever going. But could I buy a property there and have an informed decision? Absolutely, by using the properties in my PJ's system. $97 there. So total value, $55.24. So for those of you that are going to take advantage of our special offer tonight and start exploding your real estate business successfully and make it the career that it could be, and start building long-term relationships with our company at Radical Real Estate and DFWproperties.net. Tonight may be the very first step in that journey. So you've got the Real Estate Summit, 26 video hours, $14.95. You got the home study course is a 3-day audio training, $14.95. You've got the 4 consulting calls at $300 a piece, $1,200. You've got the private money vault and how to open it, 6-hour video training for $247. And then you've got, it's really a software system when you're talking about properties in your PJs at $97, and the 2 bonus web classes. So let me ask you a question. If all this system did was lock you in at a 30% net profit on every single deal that you did, would it be worthwhile? And I'm going to tell you, if you're doing 30% and I find out about it, I'm going to call you on the phone and skin your noggin and show you how to bump that up. What's crucial is you're making the right decision to work with the right business coach and get you on the right path to creating the legacy that you want to create for yourself and for your family. So I want you to think about everything that you're going to be able to accomplish once you've gained the skill set and you understand, how do I use that to the best of my ability and to the best of the benefit, not only for me, but for the people that I'm doing business with. This is the greatest service business that I think you can be in, other than being a pastor or being a doctor. Real estate fits right there. And when you have the ability to impact somebody else's life and put them in a house that nobody else is around to help them get into a property with, it'll change your life and it'll change your business. And obviously, it'll change their life as well. And it gives you the confidence to take the limits off of what your earning potential is. A lot of times we help people get over the money roadblocks that they have, because my dad taught me years ago, business is not good or bad out there. Business is good or bad right here. And if you got it right and you got it going good in here, it doesn't matter what the marketplace is, your business will always be good. Seller financing is a way to make a lot of money and in a relatively fast period of time. Now, I don't want you to think I'm selling get rich quick. I am not doing that. But when you look at what you spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week on, if you have a regular job, and then you get a couple of these checks in, it's going to seem like that dollar amount is coming in really fast, because comparatively speaking, it is. So let's see what we can do to make this even easier for you. The entire Tsunami Sessions training system, everything that we've covered, is going to go for a one-time investment of $997. $997 buys all of that. 3 days of audio, 3 days of video training, the 2 live web shots, web classes, the 4 individual private calls with me. And those are with me. Those are not with my team. Those are with me. So here's how you get involved with the Tsunami Sessions. So, one of the easiest things in the world to do is just grab your phone and take a picture of that link right there. It's a bit.ly link. Now you can literally just go to www.bit.ly Tsunami Sessions. Now, You have to put the capital T and a capital S in there, Tsunami Sessions. But the easiest thing to do is just grab a quick screen capture, a photo of it with your phone, and then you know you got it right. But you can go there, and when you go there, what you're going to see is you have the ability to learn from what I've done in the past and get into these highly profitable seller finance deals, get your business on the right track. A lot of seller finance deals are the deals that we're talking about when we're talking about hidden deals, and get your first seller finance deal done in the next 30 days. But to do that, you got to take action, because you have to act. Action changes things. So here's a recap of everything that we're getting in there: the 26 hours of video training, the 3 days of audio training, the 4 consulting calls, the private money vault and how to open it, and properties in your PJs, plus the 2 live 90-minute web classes. Now, are we going to record them? Of course we are. So that if 4 o'clock next Thursday and the Thursday after that is something that's unavailable for you, will you be able to catch those on a replay? Yes, you will. There's a private member area that we store all of that for you so that you have access to that all the time. And again, that's a 5524 bonus or total value. And when you go to tsunamisessions.com, it is $997. It's going to take you to a page, an order page that looks just like this. So when you see it, you'll know that you're in the right spot. It says Bill Barnett's Radical Seller Finance Training, $997. And be prepared to profit from being at the front of the seller finance tsunami. And then you can put your information in on the right. This is a Stripe page, extremely secure credit card handling processor. They do a great job. So you'll know what it looks like when you get there. You'll know what you'll see when it comes up on your statement for that $997. And again, it's bit.ly/Tsunami Sessions, capital T, capital S. And you'll have a great start to getting off into the seller finance business and crushing it on your cash on cash return. And I hope if there's one thing that's happened for you tonight is that you've decided that you're going to look at never stepping in another deal if you can't figure out a way to get 40+% off of it, cash on cash on a yearly basis. Scotty, anything that I can answer, brother?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Yes,
Same as the, do you include all the legal contracts and paperwork for purchase and putting seller financing deals together?
Yes. So if you've got the strategy, but you don't have the technique, and that's what we're talking about with technique, is that you got to have the forms that go along with that. And then ever since the Dodd-Frank Act went into play, that became a lot trickier, and we had to become a lot more specific exactly how we do that. So yes, we have the forms and the paperwork that go along with that.
Perfect. He also asks, can you use seller financing on properties in a 401k?
As long as you know that all the funds are going back into the 401k. Okay,
Yep.
So you have to be, and you want to check with whoever your custodial is. And Quest is a fabulous custodial. There's a lot of good ones, but I love Quest. They're a fabulous custodial for anything to do real estate wise. And I always, just like you always listen to your real estate attorney, you always listen to your doctor, you always listen to Quest or whoever your custodial is when it comes into a question like that. Am I going to answer and show you? Yes. The answer is yes. But you also want to go back to them and go, okay, so every custodial is a little bit different in how they execute that.
Yeah, exactly. Tyshawn asked, if you do subject to and take over payments, are you paying them market value or just the payoff amount?
No, I'm usually giving them somewhere between market and payoff. It'd be nice. And I always ask, will you take what you owe on it? Because sometimes you get surprised and they go, I could do that. So you always ask that question and you give them an opportunity to respond. But normally in a market that's hot as it is right now, unless they're really new into that house, they've only been in it 3-4 years, 5 years, something like that. They're going to have some equity build up. And what makes that move a lot faster is not getting so greedy. And when you understand the cash on cash return numbers, it gives you some flexibility not to squeeze the deal to death. So you get them, they get a little bit of equity out of it. And for a lot of these people, that money is crucially important for them. But that's the difference between me being able to get the deal and a lot of other investors being told no, is I don't try to squeeze it so hard. If there's not enough spread in the deal for me to be able to give them some money, then it's probably not the right deal.
Right. Yeah. Question here, how do you repossess for non-payment? And this is a thing here. This is why you like to get some down payment from the person you're financing it to. More the better, because the best skin in the game. But you also, you foreclose, or you can do a deed in lieu and escrow in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And it depends on how you set that contract up on the beginning. If you're doing just a very straight, plain vanilla process or contract, then you're going to have to go through the traditional foreclosure process. Now, has that been changed over the last year? Yeah, it has. Is it changing back? Yeah, it is. And the reason it's changing back are the banks and the mortgage companies, not you and I. The government could care less about us. They care about big business. And big business for them are the banks and the mortgage companies. And the banks and the mortgage companies are getting fed up with this. And they're like, hey, enough is enough. So let's get back into being able to not only lend money very easily, but being able to go back and get our collateral for people that aren't paying. And so that is changing back to a more traditional environment, and foreclosure will be an easy way to go after that.
In a lot of states too, it's just the states have already, there are a lot of states that have already started foreclosures.
Yeah. And you know what?
If you're not a government-backed loan like a Fannie or Freddie, you don't have to not stop foreclosure. You can go and foreclose.
You can foreclose on somebody too, where they go, oh, you can't foreclose. There's a moratorium. There's a moratorium for non-payment. There's other things that you can foreclose on if you're paying attention.
Yeah. And this is one of the most important things. Yeah. One of the most important thing is getting that skin in the game for the borrower. The more skin in the game, the less likely they're going to default on that. Anytime we've owner finance stuff and we got little, it always ended up being defaulted. Or if we did a loan mod for some business, we didn't get any
bites in the butt.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good questions though, Sam.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Barnett there tonight? Great stuff there, Bill. Lots of great bonuses there. I put the link in the chat roll for you guys. So it's a clickable link for you guys in the chat roll. Outstanding, Sam says. Tyrone enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys.
Mautry says, hey, Bill, roll tide.
Roll tide, brother. Roll tide.
David Willis, yes, you can do this on mobile homes, correct? This is
absolutely
type of thing.
Absolutely.
From the old car to, to houses, to mobile homes, apartments. Owner financing is something you do on just about anything with it.
If you love mobile homes, these are fabulous strategies for mobile homes.
Yep.
You can make a stupid amount of spread in a mobile home environment using these strategies.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Any other questions? It looks like everybody's all happy there. Get signed up today, bit.ly/Tsunami Sessions. Guys, remember, you get signed up and you'll be able to take advantage of that Thursday night coaching call that Bill's putting together at 4 p.m. Central.
Next week, a week from today.
Exactly. Tyshawn says, when you take over the property, are you rehabbing it?
Typically, I want to stay away from that. Now, I may have to, depending on what I'm doing with the property. If I'm putting a renter in it, I've got to make sure that it's in suitable condition to attract the rent amount that I'm trying to get. If I'm doing government, I do a lot of Section 8 stuff. So I got to make sure that it will pass a Section 8 inspector. So a lot of times I'm spending a little money on it. But again, if it's not money coming out of my pocket, I'm bringing in private outside funds to cover all that. So it's costing me a little interest, but it's not killing my deal. And if you know on the front end, here's what I think I'll need to spend to get it into the shape it needs to be in. And I calculate that interest and I calculate what time frame it's going to take for me to retire that piece of debt. Then it's easy to be able to make the decision, is this a good deal or not?
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about the numbers.
Yep.
All right. Well, good stuff there. Great question, Tyshawn. Bill, man, thanks so much.
My
Great
pleasure,
stuff
brother.
There, buddy. And look forward to seeing you soon, maybe getting a ball game before too long.
Yeah, let's do that.
Great stuff.
All right. See you now. Good night, everybody.
I think you've got to make me host again since I made you host.
All right, let's see there.
You may not know how to do it. Guys, thank you so much for a great day one at Note Camp. Come back. We get started right at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we'll see you guys all for day two. Take advantage of this, the discount, though, the bonuses. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.
I'm going to guess that's under remote control. Give that back to you.
Yeah.
Let's see if that did it. See if that got you back.
No, just because your screen. Just go ahead and end it. We'll end it all and
Okay.
just close it down. Bye. Bye.
Thanks.